Good morning, everybody. Good Monday morning, everyone. It's great to see you all out there. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. Let's grab our cups of coffee or our tea and sit back and relax while we talk about what is happening this week. This is actually a great day to relax. We start the week with the moon void, of course, which means that it's a slow Monday morning and we're just sort of maybe feeling a little bit tired, and I need to relax more because I didn't do enough of that this weekend. I don't know what it is. Monday mornings with the void of course moon just make me want to stay in bed for a little bit longer. Although this morning I woke up and I got right up, and now I'm like, oh man, why did I do that? I should have stayed in bed until 7. No, can't do that. Can't do that at all. Well, so let's take a look at what's going on today. First of all, like I said in the beginning, hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. It was a busy weekend for me. We had two of our grandsons playing in football, one granddaughter who was cheerleading, and luckily the granddaughter cheerleads for one of the grandsons' football teams, so it's a twofer. And so we got to see them play, and then I caught the last half of Dallas's game. He's my little peewee grandson who is playing for the first time ever, but he's just such a little tiger. It's so much fun to watch them play. It's so much fun to watch them play and to see the sportsmanship through which they naturally work the game. And then you juxtapose that against the fights and the posturing and the irritation and the personal fouls that go on in the professional league. It's pretty amazing to see that the kids have a better grasp of the idea of game than the pros do. But I guess, the difference is they're getting paid to be bullies. I don't know, but I love the game. My Seahawks won barely, but they did it. And it wasn't a pretty game, as well as I knew it probably wouldn't be because of the hype about the game going into it. And because there was so many astrological things going on yesterday. Sunday was just a crazy astrological day, and the games sort of showed that. I was kind of just perusing all of the different scores and the highlights of the games. It was crazy how many weird things happened. Not too surprising if you know the astrology of the day, however. Saturday night here, we had the most crazy thunder and lightning storm, hail, wind, rain. It's just not typical for this area of the country to have thunder and lightning. So it was a huge rarity, but it was amazing and went on for a couple of hours. And I mean, one bolt just came right down right there in front of us, and immediately the crack of thunder was pretty scary, actually. My cat was trying to hide, so finally I just grabbed her and tucked her away on my side and kept her safe during the whole thing. And that was Saturday night. Sunday, then, yesterday, was a much quieter day until the game came on. And then, of course, it was quite raucous at my house for the next hour or two while that was going on. So I had a great weekend. I hope everybody else did too. Let's see who's joining us this morning. Good morning, Mimi. Good morning, Colleen and Jan. Good morning to you, Chanel, Camille. Mimi says, good morning. Yep, already browsing ideas today, finding some interesting ones. Yay. Natasha, good morning. Colleen says, good morning to everybody. And Debbie Hedden, good morning to you as well. Well, let's take a look at what is happening up in the sky then today, with the moon void, of course, in Capricorn until 2:24 p.m. my time. That would be 5:24 p.m. for you all on the East Coast or in the Eastern time zone. It makes for a day where there's not going to be a lot happening, except maybe getting things done that you've been attempting to get done for a while. It's interesting because today I have a lot of kind of batting cleanup stuff that I have to do, and it'll be perfect because it's really not a day where you want to get out and start something new. But the good news is that after 2:24, 5:24 p.m., the moon will move out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, and that sets us up for a few days worth of some really unique and maybe ingenious ideas, things coming to us that we didn't expect. So I really like that. There are no new aspects of anything with the moon or any other planets today up until the point that we have the new moon, or the moon moving into Aquarius. The last aspect that the moon made before it moved out or before it went into the void was with Venus. So really that leaves us with some really cool energy. It was a trine, so a smooth flow of maybe some creative ideas. We have this ideal of beauty and harmony, and what can we do to bring more of that into our lives? So I kind of like that. If we look at the week ahead, however, it is a little busier than what today would seem to suggest that the week would be. As we look at the week ahead tomorrow, we see a sun opposing Neptune. That always makes things so hard to clear, like this fog in your face. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some people's neighborhoods were fogged in with the sun being clouded by Neptune. Thursday, Mars is squaring the planet Jupiter. That will make for some interesting energy. We are in line for the full moon on Friday, which is likely one of the most energetic days of the week, because not only is the moon full on Friday, we have Mercury conjunct Venus, the sun in a trine to Pluto, Mars opposing Neptune, and then the very next day, both Mercury and Venus moving out of Virgo, and we start that transition then over into Libra energy. So, right? We'll need today's rest. Build up your energy today. Build up your fortitude. Get all your ducks in a row. Get ready for what will be a very interesting week. Now, not to be outdone, the Human Design Week also looks that way. As we look ahead, we have the Earth and the Sun playing in two gates that I find most fascinating. One, remember that this last week, up until today, the sun has been sitting at the gate 64, which is a gate. Oh, I did print the chart, but I left it over there in my printer. So let me see if I can pull last week's chart out, because I think it'll look the same. Remember that the sun has been sitting at gate 64, which is a gate that's up in the head center. And I probably pulled that chart out somewhere here. Okay, well, whatever. We don't get to see it. It's okay. So the head center up here, the center for inspiration and ideas, it's a pressure center. The pressure is mental pressure to answer questions. And the gate 64, where the sun had been sitting, could bring us up to some confusion. And the moon at one point was sitting at gate 63, which brought up doubt. So we had sort of head pressure as we ended the week last week. Well, now, as the sun prepares to move into a new gate, the new gate is the gate 47, which is the solution to the mental confusion of gate 64. So if last week was a bit confusing, or you were finding yourself lost in, ideas, or not being able to see your way clear, there's help coming, because the sun moving into the gate 47 might bring you an epiphany. It might bring you an aha or a revelation where before there was no ideal of that coming. But there is one problem with gate 47 that we are definitely going to have to be aware of, and that is that it is a gate of stinking thinking mindset. It sits on the ajna, the second center down, which is the center for comparing and contrasting and analyzing, and its energy is that of certainty. And if you get locked in a mental certainty, a mental rut, it makes it hard for you to jump out and see things differently. So we're going to have to work to be able to see that differently and to be able to move forward. So interesting week coming ahead that way. The Earth will be at gate 22. And I swear one of these days we're going to have to do a deep study of the gate 22, because it's fascinating. It is the involution that is being required of us before we can have an evolution. Evolution implies the outer world changes that we see in response to dynamic pressures in the outer world. But the 22 shows us the involution, the dynamic pressures that are pushing us from within. And what does all of that mean? Well, we'll take a look at that. The thing that is most concerning to me, though, for the week has nothing to do with either of those two gates. It has to do with Mercury and Venus, and then ultimately next week, the sun, all sitting at the gate 6, which in human design is a part of the tribal circuitry. That's the masculine side of the tribal circuitry. In its highest and best, it brings peace. In its lowest, it's war and it's conflict. And it's the inability to come to diplomatic solutions around something. So that may happen. It's peace, diplomacy, and conflict. So if we can move the path of conflict to peace through diplomacy, that's what gate 6 is all about. We'll have Mercury there, Venus there, and I want to say Mars joins the party there. Yes, it does. Mars joins the party later in the month on the spring, not the spring, but the fall equinox, so the 23rd. So that doesn't, that makes me a little concerned. We have this long rolling path of that gate 6 conflict and its shadow going on through most of the rest of this month. So that's a little disconcerting, but it also leaves open the pathway to finding diplomatic solutions where before perhaps we couldn't do that. It brings to mind the Brexit thing that's going on in Britain, and it brings to mind some of the more crazy crap that goes on in this country, where our president just says things out of time and just, you know, whatever's uppermost in his mind comes out of his mouth. And conflict, you know, has been high here in this country as well. I don't know that it can get much worse, so hopefully maybe something breaks toward diplomacy. That would be stellar. So those are the ones that we're going to have to watch this week. Also, Pluto, which has been in retrograde since April, has now retrograded backwards far enough that it's again in the gate 54, which is on the root center. And the root center being the center for endurance and perseverance, it's a center that is impulse energy, right? The impulse to do or be something. And the gate 54 is the impulse or the ambition to move toward enlightenment. That would be my highest thought for that gate. But it is also the gate of ambition in business. It is where we have the bigger goals or dreams that we want to take and push forward. And so Pluto sitting back there will be responsible for likely bringing those things back up to us. Where are we out of alignment with enlightenment? Ha! Interesting, right? I probably would see that there's a lot of places where that could be a problem. Or it could be a solution. Let's hold out the highest and best, right? Christine, good morning. Asa, good morning. Linda, good morning. And Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel, good morning to you, sweetie. Great to see you. And great to see everybody out there. I love it. Let's take a look at the Pleiadian-Earth energy. And that today is, of course, the end of the 13-day week. We've reached the 13. That is the universal number of completion or ascension. It prepares us for tomorrow's new beginning. And remember, in this energy, it is the universal energy. So no matter where we are across this wide universe, it is that energy that we are tapping into today, as well as the earth energy, which is exploring energy. And this in Mayan was Ben, and Ben was the reed, and the reed needed to be able to bend and sway to be able to survive. If it was too stiff, it broke, and the plant was then ruined. So Ben, the ability to bend, and exploring the energy to bend and yield to the pressures around you. It is a great day for travel. It is also a great day for harmonizing various points of view, maybe preparing to become more diplomatic and more peaceful in your life. And it is a warning for us to not be too rigid and not to be overly critical of ourselves or of others. Factor yourself into that one. I want to show you the picture of the chart for today because we still have this beautiful mystic rectangle here. And the mystic rectangle is made up of these up here are sextiles. You see, if you count from the corner here, this is the north node. You get 60 degrees until you get to the sun and Venus and those planets over here in Virgo. Then it's made up of trines that connect down to the lower part of the chart here, which is where there is Pluto and Saturn and the south node, and then another sextile, and then another trine. So we have really good, and then there's oppositions that go in the middle, right? You see the X marks the spot down the middle, and in there I also see a grand trine. And so we have some really, really beautiful energies moving through the chart. The mystic rectangle, to me, whenever I see that in a chart, as soon as I see that in a chart, I think about the mystical life. What's funny is when I have one in my own personal chart. When I was growing up, I would never have ever believed that I was here to do anything metaphysical, anything spiritual. I was very grounded in the very basics of this, life on this planet. And as I got to about my 40th birthday, I mean, there were instances of spirituality before that. Dreams of my mother dying, an angel visitation when my real mother was dying. Those were all things that happened that should have given me cues that I would end up on this spiritual path, but they didn't give me cues. They just kind of scared the bejeebs out of me. And then when I got to around age 40, my Uranus opposition, that's where I think that mystic rectangle really came into view. And I saw myself then in the role of a bit of a mystic or a magician or an alchemist or an astrologer, whatever you want to call it. And that is how I ended up in this path. So when we have a mystic rectangle, it operates sort of as an opportunity to become more spiritual. So even if you don't have one personally in your own chart right now, you're all being influenced by this potential to use mystical energy, to become more spiritually inclined, to become more aware of your divine self. Now, that is also being sort of balanced out with some T-squares. The T-squares are off center, meaning they're not made up of major planets, but they are made up of things like Eris, the goddess of discord, Pluto, the god of the underworld, the midheaven of the chart, which is in Cancer, which is close to the North Node, enough to make me think that we have to learn to live our destiny. We have to tune into what is it that we're here to participate in and not get clouded by all of the noise and the frequency vibration out there of this conflict and ugly energy, polarized energy. And then the other place that the point of the T-square is at is the rising sign of this chart, which happens to be Libra, balancing harmony, balance, harmony, equilibrium, diplomacy and tact, loving our brothers and sisters. You know what? My neighbor was calling me and I was afraid there was an issue. So anyway, let me finish my thought here, and if she texts me, then I may have to go. So we have the opportunity now with all of this mystical energy out here to be something so much more, right? And it sort of reminds me of remember 2 weeks ago I took a class and I told you about the times that we live in now and how it's similar to the end of the Bronze Age, the birth of the Dark Ages, where civilization collapsed and there were all these things going on that were, one little thing like stacked upon the other that ends up tipping civilization over into the Dark Ages for a long period of time. And the difference between that time period and now is the planet Neptune. It is the only thing different, and it's empowered because it's in its own sign. So it really shows us that the key for us to traverse all of this craziness that we see in the world is for us to become more spiritual, to have faith and to surrender and to find redemption, which is ultimately Neptune's path, through living our lives through our divine selves, or at least embodying the divine self, recognizing that you are a divine being within a physical body. And that sounds so simple as I say it, but try practicing that in the middle of the heat of a battle, of a conflict with a neighbor, or something else going on with someone in your life, with your spouse or your children. Remembering that you are really divine as they are as well, right? Seeing the divine in everyone. So interesting days that we have here as we learn more and more to be spiritual and to be spiritually inclined. And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking religion at all. It really isn't about religion. In fact, I think religion sometimes, okay, I'm going to have to take this. Are you okay? Oh, yeah, I'm in the middle of a broadcast though, so can I call you back? Okay, okay. Bye, sweetie. Okay, neighbor's okay. Very good. I was worried because that was the third call in a row and she never does that. So I just want to make sure she was good. Okay, so if we can remember in the heat of a moment that we are of divine, as well as the person that you might be in conflict with, or the person that you see in the outer world, or the group of people that you see in the outer world, there we can find a path to peace. And it is difficult. I mean, I think I told you guys last week, I think it was on Thursday or something, the discussion on this island that I live on about the deer and how people were just like, let's kill them all. It was driving me crazy, right? I almost took myself out of the group so I wouldn't have to listen to it anymore. And I thought, as I was getting ready to hit unsubscribe, I thought, wow, Janet, that is one way for you to not see what's going on over here and to not engage in the energy of love, right? Or of conflict resolution. And as soon as I made that sort of agreement with myself that I wasn't going to unsubscribe, that I was going to hold the space here, for the people on the side of calm and, loving of the wildness and tips, sharing things that people can do to keep the deer out of their prized plants or whatever. Then those people that shared my ideas started coming into the group and saying things. And it was amazing. We went from this huge fear of Lyme disease and ticks, which, by the way, we don't have here in Washington. There's been a couple of cases, but those were from people who transplanted here from other places, that things began to change. So it really shows you that, you really can impact what is going on around you by staying in peace and not getting outside of the, or not getting drawn into maybe the drama and the trauma that other people are experiencing, just by holding space and allowing love, that can heal. And it was an amazing thing for me to see that how that shifted. And even up until this morning, new comments coming in on that thread of people who are more calm and have better solutions and are offering up information. So the craziness is subsiding, I hope. And one of the reasons I was concerned about my neighbor is because they had an altercation with another set of neighbors, and I just could see her running back and forth this morning, and I wondered what the heck was going on. And then when she started calling me, I thought, oh no, there's a problem. So anyway, crazy people, crazy things, but they are all still working their lives just like you are. They're still divine beings, hidden, maybe cloaked behind fear or any other of the crazy things that happen to us human beings here on the planet. So, all right, now, lastly today, and this is a quick one this morning because there really isn't much to talk about yet. Tomorrow, that'll be a different story maybe. Today, there's this background. Can I call it I want to call it a minor aspect. It's called a sesquiquadrate. We've talked about it before. I'm going to draw you a picture of what I've drawn this picture before for you all. This is what the symbol looks like. I hope you can see it. Looks like a square with another half square, right? That's the symbol. And that's a minor aspect, presumably. It's a square and then another half of a square. So 45-degree angle added to a 90-degree angle. So we end up with 135 degrees, which is a minor square, they call it, or a sesquiquadrate. And it is today between the planet Mercury and the planet Uranus. And here is where we may find ourselves scattered. And it is a warning for us to not make hasty decisions or take hasty actions, right? Don't do it. Just don't do it today, right? Watch out for other people's short tempers today. Because remember this, not everybody's tapping in and listening to what I'm saying or what's, to other astrologers or other energy people. So they're not necessarily in tune with either themselves or with the energies going on, and they may be in reaction then to some of these energies. You who are in the know, however, can mediate your responses to what is happening in your own personal world. So use the energy instead today for creativity and for ingenuity, right? When we've got Uranus in the mix, we have this ideal situation of creative inspiration that strikes in the moment, or a solution to a problem that's long held you in its throes, right? So get there. And because we're also in the shadow, if you will, of the Sun opposition Neptune coming later in the week, tomorrow actually, isn't it? Tomorrow. Yay, tomorrow. That it is hard for us to get grounded right now. We're kind of flighty, maybe trying to move off in too many directions at one time. So do what you can to get grounded. I suggest eating chocolate. It's my solution to everything. Eat chocolate, it grounds you. But it also is an opportunity for you to get a spiritual refreshment, spiritually refreshed by doing something spiritual, maybe meditating, doing some yoga, reading some sacred texts. I don't know, whatever it is that you consider something that would refresh you on the spiritual level, and doing that. All right? Don't get into the scattered, unfocused energy. If you do, walk away and do something else more grounded. And if you are finding yourself short-tempered, remember this too shall pass, and use that, maybe you can channel that energy into something more creative, or go take a walk. Go take a walk. All right, that is it for me today. Does anybody have any questions before I go? Good morning, Kristen and Lynn Goldberg. I see you out there joining us this morning. And I'm looking backwards just to see if I missed any questions, and I did not. It doesn't look like I did. So anybody have any questions? In the meantime, let me tell you something else while I'm waiting to see. Yesterday, there was the reveal for the cover of the 2020 Energy Almanac that I wrote in the spring, and it's getting ready to be launched out there, and the cover is beautiful. So watch for that. I'm going to be somehow I've got to figure out where Tam put that for me and get that to you all to show you what it looks like. It looked pretty beautiful. I saw an owl with an olive branch in its mouth, and some other really spiritual looking symbols in the background. I'll have to take a look again, but that's the cover, which means the launch is near. Right? The launch is coming very shortly. So we'll want to get into that. Lynn says she's listening while taking a walk. Great idea. Get that and those creative juices flowing. Get any of that frustration left over maybe from the weekend out and get it moving. That's the best way to use that energy. All right, guys, take care. Have a wonderful day. I will see you here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And in the meantime, stay calm, cool, and collected. All right. Bye-bye.